Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I'm your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome a young and accomplished entrepreneur from Gurgaon, India, Mr. Divyanshu Tambe. Divyanshu, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ajitosh, for having me and for chatting with us.
Thank you. Divyanshu is the co-founder and chief financial officer of MeraPashu 360. He was earlier with EY, Edelweiss, and Vedanta. So, Divyanshu, my first question: what inspired you to transition from a successful corporate career into entrepreneurship, particularly focusing on rural India and agriculture?
Sure. So, Ashutosh, to be very honest, having lots of friends who are founders, I never wanted to become a founder. So, the idea chose me, not the other way around. I was actually helping one of my friends on landscaping this and helping him with the GTM and what can be done in the space. And when actually the size of the problem and the acuteness of the problem is actually what got to me. I literally had sleepless nights on it, and we said, this is very large, very impactful. Having had a career spanning of more than 18 years, I had seen businesses, being a banker as well. So, this seemed doable, very tough, but doable, and very large impact. I think the impact was the largest part of the equation, which got us convinced to pursue
Amazing.
this.
Amazing. As I was reading and preparing for my conversation with about you, you've been recognized as a thought leader in logistics and infrastructure. How have some of these insights helped you to build and scale MeraPashu? And before that, tell me a little bit about MeraPashu.
So, sure. So, look, I think first part, yes, I've been a logistic banker and logistic consultant all my life. So,
Mm,
yes, that has helped. And in terms of what we are building at MeraPashu, we are basically a sales and distribution partner for various cattle feed brand, including our own, right? So, as I said, distribution is a key to reaching the rural India. That's where we have spent most of our energy and time with, and that's where we got hammered the most.
mm,
So having understanding of distribution did help in designing our logistic network. Uh, just to give you a sense, I mean, in terms of the problem statement that we had, if you look at e-commerce logistics in the country, we had to cut down 1/10. We had to operate our network at 1/10 the price of e-commerce to for this to make sense,
mm,
because we are dealing with cattle feed, which is 30 rupees a kg product versus FMCG, which is 500 rupees kg in North.
mm,
So, having that, we had the roadmap clear from day one. Of course, we have done all the revamping of the network, resizing of the warehouses, and all that goes in improving the cost structure. But knowing very clearly how we want to go about building this business,
mm,
distribution being key to it, prior knowledge did help.
mm.
Uh,
Well said. And tell me a little more about MeraPashu 360. Why did you choose to go into livestock food and why rural India?
Sure. So look, I think as you know, India is the largest producer of the milk. I mean, we have a lot of vanity metrics on our side.
Mm,
But if you look at the life of the farmer and the productivity, we lag behind the global by. I mean, the numbers are really poor.
mm,
We are one-sixth the global productivity in terms of milk per cattle,
mm,
uh, and uh, and there's nobody solving for that problem. I mean, if you look at all these startups in the country, there are so many on the urban side who are servicing you and me, but on the dairy, for the dairy farmer, there are not too many out there who are trying to address his pain points. And those are acute pain points. He's asking for basic needs. I mean, he's basically saying, can you please make quality nutrition available to me so that I am able to sustainably and profitably run my dairy business?
mm,
And that's what we do. So if you look at the dairy industry per se, the heart of it is nutrition. So if you solve for nutrition, you're
mm,
solving for production, reproduction, and the health of the cattle.
mm.
And that's what we are trying to solve. And that's why our tagline is Swasth Pashu Samriddh Kisan, which means healthy cattle, wealthy farmer.
That's it. And when we were speaking before our recording, you were telling me that there is a big difference in the yield of a cattle based on the nutrition. For my
That's correct.
viewers and listeners, tell me a little bit more about this as well.
Sure. So, look, there have been tons of studies globally as well as in India
Mm,
where it has been clearly pointed out that if you give balanced ration, your cost of ration will be lower and the milk productivity will be higher.
mm,
Unfortunately, in India, the cattle rearing has been happening in a certain way for decades. They have not been questioned. They have the farmer is not that educated, not that well aware. So, if so, that's why the cat, as I said, milk productivity in India is one-sixth of the developed world. So
mm,
typically in India, the cattle gives about a ton of milk a year, whereas in 9 to 10 ton is not uncommon in the developed market, right?
mm.
That's where it is, right? Imagine if we can improve the productivity even by 2x, that changes the whole unit economics for the dairy farmer. So and the good news is that it is possible to solve that with once we make quality nutrition available to him. We
Mm,
have ourselves seen our farmers, our customers benefiting out of buying good quality cattle feed, which was not available in rural India.
mm.
And we also were running dairy farm ourselves, where we would buy a cattle, get it to our dairy farm, and when we feed it with our nutritional products, the milk yield will go up by 10 to 15%. So
Mm.
that's why it is so attractive, because it's a solvable problem and it has
Right.
real impact in a quick time. So
Mm.
absolutely, so balanced ration, balanced cattle feed, and nutrition has a tremendous role to play.
Fascinating. But the other question, Divyanshu, is that cattle feed has been in existence forever in our country. How does MeraPashu differentiate your offering from what is available in the market?
Sure. So look, I think the way cattle feed, I mean, if you look at dairy, it predates even agriculture, right? I mean, cattle
Yeah.
has been there forever. So in India, the cattle feed market is actually as you said, it's been there. So but it is very localized. So whatever
Mm,
is the local produce that the farmer is able to get his hands on,
mm,
grazing of the local grass, whatever is remaining at his home, he's been feeding that to the cattle, which is not the right way to go.
mm.
So you need they're mammals much like us, right? So they need, just like you and me, they need balanced diet,
Correct.
not just what is available. So if you make a diet which is rich in only carbs, but
Mm,
it does not have proteins, it affects the body growth.
mm.
I can go on this, but basically the point is that it needs everything. And rural India, every village will have limited, as so to speak, SKUs, which does not service the full demand of the cattle in terms of its nutritional requirement. And that's where it's our job to ensure that every village gets hold of the right products, he or she can feed to the cattle, and cattle can thereby benefit out of it.
Amazing. And you also have an omni-channel strategy. Tell me more about this and how does it benefit farmers?
Sure. So look, I think once we were sure that this is a big problem and we wanted to reach out to the farmers, we
Mm,
wanted to explore all the channels. So
mm,
we started with offline first. So we had the field sales team. Uh, our farmer likes to talk. Unlike urban customer who's more savvy, likes to be on the phone, our
mm,
customer likes to talk, like build trust over a period. So call center for us is a very big
mm,
contributor to the sales. And
mm,
of course, from scalability point of view, from reaching millions quickly, app becomes very crucial, right? So even when he downloads the app and he's new to the app and he's not able to place an order, our call center will then help him with the first couple of orders until he becomes accustomed to ordering. So idea behind having omni-channel was that first offline marketing to start off, because we wanted to talk to him, build trust that we are here, we want to solve your problems, we won't disappear, we are not a over fly by night operator, which
mm.
happens, by the way. There are a lot of fly by
Yeah.
night operators who operate in rural India
Mm.
and fleece the customer. So that was the reason behind offline thing. We wanted to reach out to him in as many ways as possible. And of course, as we scale, we focus on more scalable solutions.
Mm.
So
Mm.
yeah, that's
Fascinating. You also talk about a proprietary distribution network
yeah.
as one of your strengths. Tell me more about this and how does this network uniquely gives you an advantage as compared to other agri-tech products?
Sure. So, look, I think, uh, as you know, we are servicing a need.
Mm,
We are servicing a business, dairy business, small dairy business, and we are servicing their fundamental input, which is the cattle feed, which is 50% of their overall cost, right?
mm,
So, So we want for the transaction to happen, we had to reach the dairy farmer. We
Mm,
had to reach the rural India.
mm,
So when we started off, we wanted to partner a lot of folks who can help us, use their network. But we found that there is actually a rural distribution network in the country doesn't exist.
mm,
Nobody is delivering to the dairy farmer's doorstep so far. So we had to build that out ourselves. So today, as we speak, we deliver in the 500 pin codes in North India on a next day delivery basis, and
mm,
that's something unique to us. That capability exists only with MeraPashu.
mm,
Even the likes of biggies in the e-commerce space can't boast of that number
mm.
in the pin codes that we service. So what it was the need of the business to be able to reach the customer.
Yeah.
Since we there was no existing distribution network, we had to build it out on our own, and that has become our one of our biggest moat in our business. And it is something that the farmer values deeply, our
Mm,
customer values
mm,
deeply.
Well said. The other aspect that I wanted to was fascinated with was your use of AI, and you have your own AI assistant called Gopi.
That's
Tell me
correct.
more, and how do you use AI and Gopi to service your farmers and to manage your inventories?
Sure. So look, I mean, AI has been, people have been talking about AI for solving and making things automated, right? So we actually asked a lot of questions that our farmer has asked us in our call center or
Mm,
over the emails, right?
mm,
So to chat GPTs and likes, right? So there were obviously correct answers, but the answers were not actionable because it had all the global elements into it, right? So we said, can we make something, a tool which is very localized and very actionable. And that's where the genesis of Gopi lies, which today, by the way, is handling 3,000 queries a week. In its third week of its launch, we were very wary whether the farmers would use it or not, but it has been received very well.
mm,
What it does is that, the much like us, depending on the stage of the cattle, depending on whether it is lactating, pregnant, heifer, depending on which breed it is, depending on the weather conditions, whether it is summers, whether it is winter, the
mm,
feed can change a lot.
mm,
The recommended feed can change a lot. And that amount of knowledge you cannot infuse in a call center executive because there are just too many parameters. So what we
right.
did with Gopi was we infused it with all the knowledge of the dairy, very local to India.
Mm,
And we also enabled it with vernacular languages so that it is able to interact with the farmers in a very easy way.
mm.
And yeah, it is working very well for us.
Amazing, amazing. But tell me a little more on how this AI-driven automated uh, technology is revolutionizing customer support. You said one is vernacular, and the other thing you also talked about was inventory management.
Oh, sure. So look, I think on the customer support side, there are a lot of questions and things that farmer has which can be purely pulled out of the system and updated. Let's say order status, right? When is my order going to get delivered? Where is it? All of those questions. A human need not interact with the dairy farmer for
Mm,
that. So
mm,
that part we have completely automated.
mm,
Second part, on the inventory management side, on the warehouse management side, there is demand forecasting aspect of it. There is inventory count aspect of it where, you can have shortages, etc., which is again solvable by AI because it can pinpoint to each inventory, both in times of loading and unloading.
mm,
And that again helps us. Once you have the demand forecasting right, and once you have you know where your inventory is and how much it is,
mm,
life becomes easy as far as managing the distribution network goes.
mm. How amazing. And you also have launched a mobile app, which your customers in rural India seem to be using a lot. Tell me about this mobile app and how technology is driving your growth.
Sure. I mean, look, I think, and if when we had set out to serve dairy farmers, we knew there are 100 million of them, right?
Mm,
We couldn't reach to all of them via just field sales or call center. It had
yeah.
to be something that is scalable
Mm,
and tech enabled, right? That's where app comes into play.
mm,
So
mm.
it's been about 2 years for our app since we launched. Today, more than 70% of the orders that we receive are online.
Wow.
And people were initially, cagey whether dairy farmer will use app to place order or not.
Mm,
That question has been, answered resoundingly well
mm,
from the customer himself, right? So we plan. So in terms of tech enablement for, so this is obviously the demand generation part of it,
mm,
but throughout the value chain of how we service the customer on the warehouse side, on the customer support side, as I talked about the intervention of AI, on the operation side, on the marketing side, all of it is, we have enabled everything via tech.
mm,
There is WMS, TMS, the usual bit, and of course, as I said, some of the AI intervention.
mm,
So the idea is to have the whole business tech enabled, because our customer is distributed pan India, and there are 100 million of them, right? So to be able to serve them accurately with speed, with alacrity, you need tech to play its role, and we were very cognizant of that from day one.
mm. And you spoke a few minutes back about the customer, the rural customer wanting to talk face to face or to someone to build trust. I remember when e-commerce came into India 20 years ago, I used to hesitate to put my card as well. How did you manage to build so much trust with the rural consumer? And do you see any difference between the rural consumer and the urban consumer?
Oh, absolutely. They are two different halves of India. So I'll tell you, initially that's why we had offline teams, because we wanted our people to go and talk to him, to build the trust that we are here, we want to serve you, we understand your problem, tell us your problems,
Mm,
so that we can design our products accordingly.
mm,
In fact, he was the one. We had started with cattle trade. It was our customer feedback that we received from our field sales team that he wants to buy cattle feed from us. So we
mm,
launched cattle feed a month later. So we've been listening to him. We take regular feedback
mm,
on a weekly basis, where he tells us what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong.
mm,
Second important difference between urban and rural consumer is he's more community driven. So the way we have been, so wherever we are present, we have seen our density grow there, and that's
mm.
purely because one, if you have X five customer happy in a region with you, you are going to get 25 more.
Right.
Because they talk a lot amongst themselves, unlike urban India,
Mm,
who's more nuclear family driven. Rural India is more heavily community driven.
mm,
So after building the initial trust, after servicing initial few orders from the app, we see the sales density growing in all the regions that we've been servicing. In fact, our sales density per pin code has grown by 4x in last 4 quarters. So I think that's driven by the fact that they talk amongst themselves. They recommend to people if they like the product.
mm.
So that's where the rural and urban consumers are different. Of course, the way the address
Yeah.
gets listed in rural India is again very different than
Correct.
your and my address. So I can go on bit on the differences, but these three are sort of the main, the
Fascinating.
community.
Fascinating. The other thing that I was fascinated when I was reading about you was the whole concept of rural quick commerce. Quick commerce is just about stabilizing in urban India, but you have launched rural quick commerce. Tell me more about this concept and the potential.
Sure. So look, I think if you look at simply, cattle feed is nothing but groceries for cattle.
Mm,
So like you and me order groceries, now it's available in 10 minutes.
mm,
When we started for home delivery of cattle feed, we were initially doing T+3 delivery.
mm,
So if you place order today, your order will get delivered 3 days out.
mm,
But customer kept giving us feedback that he wants it quicker,
mm,
right? So we then moved in a year to T+2, then to T+1. In second half of this year, we'll be able to do same day delivery. So if you place your order before 2 o'clock, you'll get the order delivered on the same day. And next year we have plans of moving to 4-hour delivery.
mm,
As soon as you place the order. So the need has been there. He wants, how it helps him is that the if you look at the planning of dairy farmer in rural India, because he had to go to district place and buy, he
mm,
would buy 15-day material, and his working capital gets stuck there, right?
mm,
So this quick commerce helps him order as he needs.
mm,
And because our distribution network is now there, and the sales density is improving, I am able to improve these SLAs without incurring additional costs. So it's not that I'm incurring more cost. In fact, it is actually benefiting me in terms of better utilization of my assets.
mm.
So
Well
it
said.
helps him, it helps me.
Well said. My next question is, Divyanshu, what role do educational initiatives and content like videos and AI-driven FAQs play in building trust with a rural consumer?
Oh, tremendously. Look, I think the rural customer is very smart, and he's very hungry to understand and know how he can get better yields,
Mm.
because it's his livelihood. It is not a vocation. This drives his home, his economics, right? So, and if you look at, even if you Google
Mm.
today the best practices in dairy, again you will get a lot of correct answers but not actionable answers, right?
Right. Right.
So right from day one we said our value prop has to be education led marketing. So if you look at even our, let's say, social media videos,
Mm.
YouTube videos, you will find that 50 to 60% of those videos are actually educational on, let's say, how to feed, what to feed, health concerns of the cattle. If the weather is changing, then what are the precautions that you need to take to ensure that your
Mm.
cattle is well.
Mm.
He loves that. In fact, some of the highest views are on those aspects. We have also started a e-chopal where our nutritionist and a senior veterinary doctor, advises people on how to manage their cattle and dairy farm better.
Mm.
So good news is it's getting received very well. The customer is asking questions. He's following it, and it also builds trust in him that they are not here just to sell their products,
Right.
but to help us
Correct.
build a better business. And that obviously helps to continue to build on the trust that the customer has placed in us.
Said. So I have time for two more questions, Divyanshu. My next question is, what drives your decisions around expanding into categories like poultry feed, goat feed, and other organic fertilizers?
So look, I think what we started with cattle feed, as that's the piece that we studied in detail.
Mm.
But over a course, we have realized that what we have built is a pipe to rural India. So our distribution network is a pipe to rural India,
Correct.
and I can literally push any product through that pipe.
Yeah.
And natural extension, once you have solved for cattle feed, is overall livestock feed. So
Mm.
poultry feed is something that we plan to launch in next quarter. Goat feed we have launched last quarter. Same farmer in India, there is a 60% union between dairy farmer and the agri farmer. So
Mm.
same farmer needs fertilizers as well and the agri inputs as well. So they are also on the cards.
Mm.
So the idea is, and more products I'm able to push through my network, my cost per kg goes down, and that I'm able to pass on to the customer.
Correct.
Because we are very cognizant that we are servicing business, whether it is dairy, whether it is agri, whether it is poultry. These
Mm.
are all businesses being run in rural India,
Mm.
and being cost competitive will help him, will help us.
Mm. Amazing. And my last question for you, given the increased global focus on sustainability, I wanted to ask you, what are some of the sustainable practices or strategies that you have already embedded within your business model?
Sure. So look, I think we think of sustainability from our customers' viewpoint more,
Mm.
right? So if you make if you make high quality nutrition available to him, his economics improves.
Mm.
Sustainability of the dairy business in India, which is a, let's say, a laghu udyog, right? So that improves.
Mm.
That's critical for survival and growth of rural economy.
Mm.
So that's at the heart of what we do. Of course, we are well aware of there are some issues around dairy farming in terms of high methane emission. So we are working with ICAR, Indian Research Institute, on dedicated to dairy, where we are including some of the ingredients in our feed, which reduces the methane emission per liter of milk produced. So
Mm.
that will help, on the climate problem, and make the dairy industry again more sustainable.
Mm.
Third initiative that we have taken is on the EV vehicle side. So the delivery that we do in right now, 90% of that is via the petrol and diesel vehicle, but we have introduced CNG, and we are introducing EV vehicle, electric vehicle. Again, that helps us as well, because in places like Delhi, Gurgaon, I can utilize my EV vehicle any time of the day, unlike the restrictions that are put on petrol and diesel.
Mm.
And of course, once I cost structure wise, also it is better than the normal vehicle,
Mm.
and it makes the whole piece greener and more sustainable. So those
Yeah.
are the three key initiatives that we have in place and implementing to get things sustainable and make our customer profitable.
Well said. And on that note, Divyanshu, I just want to say thank you so much for speaking to me about your journey. What an amazing transition from a corporate leader to a rural commerce leader. I love the conversation on my MeraPashu 360. We covered a lot of very interesting things that I learned many things about today, about how you are enabling farmers through your omni-channel strategy, through your proprietary distribution, through use of your AI assistant Gopi. Uh, I was again amazed at how you're planning to be able to get something out into rural markets through rural quick commerce within 4 hours in the next few months. Thank you again for speaking to me about the market and how you have built this amazing pipe that will enable you to take so many more products into rural India. Thank you again for speaking to me and good luck to you.
Thank you for that summary, Ashutosh, and thank you for having me again.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.